Hey, what's going on? It's Mitch here, and in today's video, I want to talk about one of the most important thing, if not the most important thing within your business and the health of your business, which is cash flow. And one of the things that I'll tell you before I start this video, I struggled with this, still kind of struggle with this ongoing. I think when you're a business owner, you're always trying to juggle these things. And so in today's video, I want to show you how you can kind of engineer this thing. And like I said, it's kind of when I first started the business, I didn't really struggle with this because it was just me. I didn't have any employees, didn't have any business partners, didn't have any salaries, didn't have much ad spend, didn't have many expenses. But as you start to expand and grow bigger, you got to manage your cash flow. And I'll show you some ways on how you can kind of maximize the cash flow from areas that you're probably already doing, but also areas that you can start to add to the mix to start to increase your cash flow, start increasing the cash reserves in your business, which is the one thing that our business is focused on right now, because we're obviously looking for long-term strategies, invest for the long term. So we're always looking to maximize the cash flow, stack some cash, especially if there's a next market correction. We always want to weather those storms. The environment's always key. So in this video, I want to talk about that, dive deep into that, and kind of show you how you can start to leverage this for your own business and really start to spot this, because like I said, this is something that I've just started to spot, started to really focus on. So I think this video will be really, really insightful. So let's dive in. And like these videos, how they always go, I just kind of record and there's no chops and edits and stuff, so we'll just keep rolling here. So one of the first things I want to talk about, and which we'll go over to the piece of paper here, is exactly this, cash flow. So one of the things, how you want to kind of look at your cash flow, one of the things you want to do first is kind of plot your fixed expenses. So if you have employees, if you have software expenses, if you have rent, if you have an office, you want to write these things down. What are your fixed monthly expenses? So you want to write those down and kind of draw like a bar graph. And I guess I could do that here. So first thing you want to do is draw like a bar graph like this, and say this is like 100 grand, or let's say this is like 200K, right? You want to plot your fixed expenses on this graph. So you just want to go like fixed expenses, and say your fixed expenses are like 20 grand per month. Then you obviously want to plot those and just draw this in here. These are your fixed expenses. Color that in. So that's what you spend on a monthly basis, right? So this is rent, these are software, these are salaries, these are anything else that if you look at your financial statements, right? If you're tracking this on QuickBooks, FreshBooks, whatever you use for your accounting software, even if you use a spreadsheet, we use a spreadsheet still, and consolidate, reconcile our accounts. So if you want to fix and see your fixed expenses, how much is that on a monthly basis? You'll be surprised. It may be a lot more than you think. It may be less. But always good to calculate that, not just with your business, but also personal, right? You always want to see what are your fixed expenses, how much cash do you burn through on a monthly basis. Write that down. Just, for example, let's say it's 20 grand a month in just fixed expenses. Plot that down. Then you want to look at other expenses that are either variable, like for example, I'll give you a prime example, like ad spend. If you're spending money on ads right now, what is your ad spend or your variable costs? Because that's going to go up and down. You can also mark that down, but those are kind of hard to plan for. But if you're running ads, look at your ad spend. What is, like, how much you've been spending on advertising or marketing with your business? And let's say you spend, I don't know, let's say on an average month you spend, say 50 grand on ad spend. Then you could just draw that in here. And I'll show you how you can kind of engineer profit in a second. Let's say you spend $50,000 a month on Facebook ads. Then you could write, let's say this is Facebook ads, right? This is ad spend. So your total monthly costs on an average basis, if you add those up, roughly $70,000, right? So if you're spending like 70 grand, right, you want to see, okay, what is the return on ad spend? So You also want to start to plot your average monthly revenue, but not revenue, cash. So a lot of people don't really calculate this based on cash. So when they look at their business, everything is revenue. And revenue doesn't pay the bills. Accounts receivable doesn't pay the bills. So you want to start to calculate based on cash. So how much cash do you collect a month? So if you spend $50,000 on marketing, let's just say that's Facebook ads, right? How much are you getting out? Usually, you should be putting $1 in, getting out, $2. So if you put in 50 grand, you should be getting out like $100,000 in cash. So let's just say you're getting a 2-to-1 on Facebook, right? And that's your kind of average cost. So let's say this is 100K, and this is cash. That comes out on the top, right? Well, you also have fixed expenses, right? So if you're spending $20,000 on just your fixed expenses plus $50,000 ad spend, you're roughly, and you pull in $100,000 cash, you're really only having that $30,000 margin for which is profit, right? So if you calculate these up, you can actually stack these on top of each other, and that will be, and then the excess will be your profit, right? So you can start to see your cash flow and how much money you're actually bringing in. And you want to kind of calculate this and, see the pulse of this on a daily, weekly, monthly basis and start to like keep your finger on the pulse, see how it's operating. But essentially the $30,000 would be your profit. So if you're spending money on ads or you have ad spend, you have a lot of fixed costs, rent, all these different costs, you can start to see the margin or the gap, which is the margin of what you're making with your business, right? And so what you can do to engineer and optimize the cash flow is start to see other areas where you can generate additional revenue or cash, rather, from different profit sources. So, for example, one of them, which we use in our business, is LinkedIn. So these are organic strategies. So not just relying on ads, because like I said, I'll be totally transparent. We spend a lot of money on ads, more than 50 grand a month. So you can see if you spend a lot of money on ads, you can't just rely on this. And I'll write this. This is cash, right? Say this is cash on an average month, right? Well, you're only making, let's say if you stack these two on top of each other, you're really making, let's say that's 70 grand. This is the profit, which would be 30 grand, right? And that's just fixed expenses, your advertising, marketing. This isn't like variable, like things that could change, There's some other things in your business that could change, like commissions for sales reps. If you have sales reps, that's another thing. So that's $30,000 profit within your business. So if you want to make more profit and generate more cash flow, you want to start to figure out different avenues or sources or traffic sources which yield high profits, right? And this could obviously be completely different. Say you're spending $50,000 on Facebook ads, but you're not getting a 2-to-1 on cash. Then your profit may be a lot less than you realize, even though you're bringing in a lot of cash, or not even cash, just revenue, because revenue does not equal cash. And this is where I find a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, get caught up, especially when you first generate a lot of revenue, is, for example, one time we made like 200 and something thousand in revenue in a month, but between the ad spend, between all these fixed expenses, all this stuff, we only made a small profit, almost broke even. So these things can happen, and a lot of people that are making a lot of revenue usually aren't accounting for cash and usually aren't seeing the balance and the difference of the margin that they're making on the cash. So you ought to be very conscious of this. And like I said, it's something I've struggled with. When I had my agency, my digital marketing agency, I was pulling in monthly recurring revenue and my expenses were really low. So I was generating a lot of profit for my business, and that I was reinvesting back into it. So you have to really watch this. I mean, it's good that you can calculate this, and you can also engineer the profit within your business. So going into our conversation with adding additional profit generating or profit producing traffic sources, you want to start to see what the impact of these are. So for example, this, and I'll get into kind of how you can look at your business as like a mental model. But for example, these, like ad spend on Facebook ads, this is a local metric, right? In your business, the overall business. Here, let me zoom this in. See if you can see this. So this is a local metric, right? Facebook ads. So even though you're putting in 50 grand, right, and you're coming out 100,000, that's still a local metric because it's on the local side. Your overall business, which is this up here, is the global metric, right? And that would be the cash flow or the amount of money that you're pulling in every single month. So these are just different local metrics within your overall business. So another like local metric or local traffic source that you can start to leverage, for example, is organic. And a lot of people don't realize organic, what it does to profits. See, you won't necessarily generate a lot of revenue off organic. You can, like, don't get me wrong, like you generate, like I've generated hundreds of thousands organically, and we still do, but that is on the local metric. And so you can have ad spend and everything that's producing a lot of revenue, but the cash and the profit that you're generating may not be as high as leveraging an organic traffic source like LinkedIn. So for example, with LinkedIn, you're spending zero money in ads because we don't do LinkedIn ads. And that's kind of what we specialize in. So if you want to learn more about it, I have a free training if you want to check it out below. But essentially, with profit, with LinkedIn, say you generate only, say you generate $30,000 a month off LinkedIn, right? Let's say this is LinkedIn, right? But your cost, see, this is ad spend. So if you spend $50,000 to generate $100,000 and you have $30,000 or $20,000 in fixed expenses, then you're only really making $30,000. But if you also add LinkedIn and you also add email, and email generates you another, like, say, 10 grand a month, right? So say 10K, and this is, say, 30K. These two together is 40 grand. So on top of this 30,000, you can add this, and now you're making an extra $40,000 on top of this 100 grand. Then this is all profit, right? So you can start to engineer this, and you add an extra 40 grand, so it's like 140 grand. Now you're making $70,000 in profit, right? And so these are still local metrics, but at the global level, you're making more money. And so even though you're only making $40,000 in cash, right, with these two methods, but you're making $100,000 here, it's actually more profitable if you focus on these local metrics. And like I said, if you're making 2-to-1 on ads, a lot of people aren't doing that. We make pretty good on a return on our ad spend, but still, like, to do that consistently is pretty hard. You got to be pretty good. You got to have a good offer. You have to have a good funnel conversion, good closing conversion rate. There's a lot of things that go into this at the local metric, at the local level. At the global level, even email, I'll write this here. Email and organic LinkedIn, and there's other organic sources that you can use. I know a lot of people use like a Facebook organic. They use Instagram even. But I found LinkedIn and email work really well, and organic content. So putting out content, generating it organically, doing even live webinars every month work really well as well. So you can see here, this is cash flow, and you can engineer this. So it all comes down to like really just visualizing this at this level. And like I said, you have the overall global metric, right? So if you think about this as like the world, right? If you just draw it like this, right? This is like the global metric, right? Well, then inside of the globe, you have the local. So you have, for example, where I live, like Toronto, that's the CN Tower there. This here is a local metric, right? So this would be, for example, Facebook ads. And everything contributes, these different sources contribute to the overall global level, which is your business, which is profit, or the overall healthier business, which is at the end of the month, how much money you have in your bank account. And I know a lot of people don't look at their business like this, and it's a very simple visual mental model. Like, you can literally do this on a pen and paper and kind of map this out. What's your fixed expenses? How much do you spend on to generate clients or acquire clients? If you don't spend a lot of money to acquire clients right now, and your costs are very low, but you're also generating not a lot of money, necessarily a lot in revenue, but you're generating good amounts of cash even. Say even if you're making $30,000 a month in cash, but your costs are like $5,000 a month, you're still making like $25,000 a month. And I'll tell you this: the people that are say they're making $100,000 a month, $500,000 a month. I've talked to a lot of business owners, and they're now making a lot of even profit. There's one story I heard: someone made $3 million in a month, and they broke even. And someone's like, "How does that happen?" It's because you can spend a lot of money to generate a lot of revenue. So I'm not too impressed with the revenue. And I've realized this, and when I talk to business owners, well, what are you making in cash? What's your cash flow? What's your net position? And a lot of people tell you it's not looking that good. So you can start to engineer the profit. And this is, like I said, something that I'm starting to really, really realize now, especially as we get bigger, especially as we start to hire more people, especially as we start to spend more in advertising on different platforms. Really leveraging organic does wonders to profit. So this is something that you can visually see. Like I said, you have the global metrics and the local metrics, and that makes up your overall profit and cash flow on your overall business. So it's a very, very easy way to kind of look at your business in that light. And one of the things you can start to do is leverage organic traffic sources. So organic, like I said, does wonders to profit, and necessarily is not impressive on revenue. But if you start to engineer, even leveraging even a small email list, emailing them, utilizing it to fill up your calendars, or if you have a list of prospects that you can email or to put out content to, or drive them to a live webinar, and actually do the live webinar, make them an offer to get on a phone call with you, and then make an offer to them. That is does really good to profit. And when I analyze what you want to do, this is another exercise you can do, is go look at every month. So over 12 months, or let's say over the last, this in 2019, this year, go look at the amount of revenue and the amount of cash you generated and the profit you made each month, and go and see what things produce or were contributors to profit, right? So you can start to see which of the months you made a lot of profit, what are the months you made small amount of profit, and then you can start to see, what did I do in that month? Did I send emails? Did I do a lot of organic? Did I make some posts on my Facebook? Did I generate some recurring revenue? Did I acquire or collect more accounts receivable than I usually do? Did I spend more on ads? Or what was the causality or the cause and effect relationships between the actions and the effect, which were the result of that, which is profits, right? Because to be cash positive, to be profitable, you need to have multiple different sources, and not necessarily with just paid. And that's why I run a lot of ads telling them about organic. You need to leverage organic. You can't just rely on one source. And I believe nobody should. And that's a recipe for disaster, especially if Facebook shuts down your ad account, or it's not as profitable one month, or it's a holiday, no one clicks on your ads. This could do a lot to profit and minimize that, break even, or even get losses. No one even talks about losses. It's a real thing. I've experienced it. I know a lot of business owners have experienced it. But to combat that, you want to focus on high margin contributing sources. So whatever has high margin contribution, so one of them, like I said, LinkedIn, it's organic. You can generate a good amount of cash just off of LinkedIn. Emails. So this is kind of the whole process, and focus on these high margin activities. And that's profit producing activities, whether that's posting on your Facebook, DMing people on Facebook, utilizing LinkedIn, getting people on to a phone call, getting cash, increasing the amount of cash that you collect on day one of invoices, right? Minimizing what you're collecting on accounts receivable. It's very, very key. So that's kind of it for this video. Cash flow, very important, looking at the global and the local metrics and engineering it. I would, like I said, plot this out for yourself. What are your fixed expenses? What are you spending on marketing or ad spend? What is your average cash that you collect on a monthly basis? Look at your accounts receivable. Keep that below 30 days or even like 14 days. The smaller you can compress accounts receivable and the amount that you're collecting up front, it's going to massively improve your cash flow and everything that you're doing with your business. And then also look at, how can I leverage these high margin contribution activities or these sources that are going to produce high amount of profit and not necessarily revenue, but a high amount of cash and profit for low cost or no cost. Because like I said, LinkedIn doesn't cost a dime, minor software expenses like Sales Navigator, and also emailing, also content. If you're posting out content, which is not a high margin activity, but it can generate additional customers that are coming to you, right? So look at this and start to engineer it. Like I said, one of the ones that we use a lot, that we generate a lot of money out of and a lot of cash with profits, is actually LinkedIn and emails and live webinars. So that's some things that you can leverage in your business as well, and really start to see the margin, like how much you actually making in profit, and then keep your finger on the pulse of it. See how it's fluctuating, see how it's going, and not just looking at Facebook ads as your global metric. Oh, you look at your spreadsheet or your Facebook ads manager and you're like, well, I made this amount of revenue. Look at the money that's in your actual bank account. What is the at the end of the month, how much profit are you taking home? What's the account growing by? That's your cash flow that's flowing into your account. Start to calculate that. And you can use different softwares for that, but what I found the best is just use a spreadsheet and just put your eye on the bank account like a hawk and manage it. Start to look at it every day and keep your finger on the pulse. So that's, like I said, it for this video. Go implement this and, like I said, watch your business explode or watch your profits explode, and cash flow is going to start to expand, and your bank accounts are going to start to become flush with cash. Focus on high marginal activities, and like I said, if you like this video, go ahead and like it and comment your biggest takeaway from the video. If you have any questions, comment below and I'll answer every DM. I actually answer them personally, so comment below and I'll answer your question and kind of your comment. And if you have any other suggestions for videos, comment below. I'm always creating them every week, every Wednesday, so we usually launch these videos. Anything else you want me to see from me, and also drop some things in the description if you want to check it out. And thanks for watching this video. Remember to subscribe, like it, and I'll see you in the next one.